In every person's life, there are moments when encounters seem not merely coincidental, but as if predetermined from above. There are connections that arise with such striking ease and depth that one cannot help but wonder, is this something more than just a coincidence? At times, there is a sense that the universe itself is making an effort to bring two people together, as if everything around begins to align in such a way that this meeting becomes inevitable. If higher powers seek to unite two destinies, certain signs begin to manifest. They may be subtle and inconspicuous at first glance, but their presence is palpable. Unexpected meetings in the most unexpected places, deep and touching conversations, paths crossing at the most opportune moment, all of this may indicate that something special is happening. Meetings that seem guided by some higher power make one ponder the nature of these connections. Drawing on the ideas of Carl Gustav Jung, one can explore how the unconscious, archetypes, and deep movements of the soul bring us closer to people with whom we share a genuine, profound connection. According to Jung, no event in our lives happens by chance, especially when it comes to significant relationships that seem destined. These connections are often rooted in the deep internal processes of our unconscious. Jung argued that the collective unconscious, a kind of universal memory shared by all humanity, has a huge impact on our decisions and encounters. When there is a feeling that the universe is striving to bring us together with a certain person, we are essentially sensing a harmony between external circumstances and what is happening within us. Such connections are often closely intertwined with the process of individuation, the path to self-knowledge, and the integration of all aspects of our personality. On this path, we often project unconscious aspects onto other people, a phenomenon that Jung called projection. Looking into another person, we often discover new facets of ourselves. In deep relationships, those aspects of our personality that we carefully hide, a kind of shadow, are revealed. Meetings that deeply touch us often touch old, unhealed wounds or dormant potential within us. Carl Jung spoke of the existence of animus and anima, the masculine and feminine principles present in each of us. And when fate brings us together with a certain person, it often happens because they touch the suppressed parts of our soul, opening the way to healing or new horizons. What we are used to calling fate can be seen as an inner call, reflected in external events. The universe seems to conduct what is happening, but at the same time follows the call of our soul. Remember how sometimes random encounters occur in incredible circumstances, and we involuntarily feel that the universe wants to tell us something. Carl Jung called this phenomenon synchronicity, a significant coincidence of events not connected by cause and effect, but united by inner meaning. In the context of relationships, synchronicity helps us realize that there is something more behind these meetings, a higher power that goes beyond logic and rational explanations. Imagine a situation. You are constantly thinking about someone, and suddenly that person gets in touch with you. Or two strangers from different parts of the world accidentally meet in a remote place, as if their meeting was predestined. Jung believed that such experiences are not just coincidences, but a manifestation of the collective unconscious, which communicates with us through external reality. Such events call us to be more attentive to the signs that the world sends us. In the intricacies of human relationships, synchronicity plays the role of a kind of catalyst, manifesting itself in pivotal moments. Whether it is the spark of a first acquaintance, a series of unexpected meetings, or the feeling that fate itself is bringing two people together. These mysterious signs, like beacons, indicate the potential significance of the coming experience, although they do not guarantee a cloudless path. Life, like a wise mentor, sets tasks for us that require understanding and integration, and often these lessons are presented in the form of relationships that originate with a clear sign, a kind of symbolic impulse sent by the universe itself. In this context, Synchronicity acts as a mirror, reflecting our inner world. If in the depths of our soul we yearn for something, the universe responds, but not with words, but with a series of meetings, symbols, and seeming coincidences. A book that magically appears at the right moment, a melody that perfectly conveys our feelings, or a conversation that seems empty but gives a long-awaited answer. All these are facets of the symbolic language of our unconscious. When the universe intends to bring us together with a certain person, it begins to weave an invisible web of signs. However, to recognize them, a special sensitivity is required, because these signals do not jump out with bright signs. They manifest in the silence of a special meeting, in the flow of spontaneous communication, in the repetition of symbols that become increasingly difficult to ignore over time. Sometimes coincidences accumulate to such an extent that denying them becomes more difficult than accepting them. Nevertheless, it is important to remember that synchronicity is not a substitute for conscious choice. It only opens a door, but we ourselves must cross the threshold. Even if the signs indicate a special connection, relationships require maturity, responsibility, and sincere presence. Fate may bring two paths together, but walking this path hand in hand requires awareness and dedication. Carl Jung viewed synchronicity not simply as a random coincidence, but as a fundamental principle establishing a connection between our inner world and external reality, filling seemingly random events with deep meaning. Paying attention to these signs of fate is not an escape into a world of fantasy, but rather a way of deep understanding, a kind of dialogue with the mysterious aspects of life. And when it comes to love, such an open perception can open horizons that are inaccessible to the ordinary eye. When a person's inner world comes into harmony with the rhythm of life, events that previously seemed incredible suddenly become possible. If the universe really seeks to connect two souls, it will create the conditions for them to meet at the most appropriate moment. Our task is to recognize these signs and decide whether we are ready to follow the intended path, opening our heart and soul to it. In moments of infatuation or strong attraction to someone, our perception is often distorted. We see in another person a reflection of ourselves, qualities that evoke admiration, hidden desires, or even unhealed wounds of the past. In Jungian psychology, this phenomenon is called projection. Jung argued that we project onto other people the content of our unconscious, both light and dark sides, both idealized images and what we reject in ourselves. At the beginning of a relationship, projection can be especially attractive. It seems to us that we have found in another person everything we have always strived for: sensitivity, strength, freedom, protection, depth, or mystery. However, over time, the realization comes that this ideal image is far from reality. This does not mean that love was an illusion, but it indicates the need to look beyond the projection and understand that much of what we saw was only a reflection of our inner world. This dynamic is especially evident in meetings that seem predetermined by fate. In such relationships, the symbolic power is so great that we can easily confuse a real person with an image created by our imagination. Carl Jung, a discerning researcher of the human psyche, argued that behind every one of our projections lies the potential for personal growth. After all, it is projections that, like a bright spotlight, highlight those areas of our personality that have not yet become part of the holistic self. Another person, therefore, becomes a mirror, reflecting not only our innermost dreams and hopes, but also our deepest fears, doubts, and unrealized opportunities. Meeting a person who touches the most delicate strings of our soul usually causes a storm of emotions. And it often happens that a feeling of admiration is mixed with pain, because this person can accidentally touch an old, still unhealed wound, or provoke an internal conflict that has long been dormant in the depths of the subconscious. The truth is that many relationships that arise in our lives become a kind of space for healing. However, in order for this process to become possible, we need to have enough courage to honestly look at ourselves and realize what exactly we are projecting onto another person. What qualities in this person evoke such delight in me? What in me does he touch, causing pain or anxiety? What feelings do these relationships awaken in me? Feelings that go unnoticed in other circumstances. Such questions help us build more conscious and mature relationships with others. Over time, we come to understand that not everything we see in another person actually belongs to them. Much of it turns out to be just our own projection. Suddenly flared anger, agonizing jealousy, blind admiration, painful dependence, all-consuming fear of loss, obsessive feeling of completeness. All these are sure signs that active work is still going on inside us. And the more consciously we relate to these processes, the more freedom we gain to build genuine relationships, devoid of masks and illusions. Jung also spoke of the existence of so-called complexes, emotional cores formed under the influence of significant experiences, especially in childhood. These complexes often become activated in our relationships. It's quite possible that we are unconsciously drawn to someone who we subconsciously perceive as the embodiment of a father or mother figure. This explains why certain relationship scenarios tend to repeat themselves, even if we consciously try to avoid it. The point isn't to run from projections, as they are inevitable companions in human relationships, especially in the realm of love. The key is to learn to recognize them and turn them into tools for self-knowledge. When we are able to see our partner as they are, without the veil of our own expectations, idealized notions, or healed over but still bleeding emotional wounds, space opens up for a genuine meeting. A meeting not of two illusory images, but of two whole personalities. This path requires courage, but it also leads to deep liberation. We stop burdening the other person with being our savior, sharing our hardships, or being the missing piece of our soul. Instead, we take responsibility for our own destiny. Love ceases to be a desperate search for a missing puzzle piece and becomes an expression of the fullness that already lives within us. And when the universe itself sends us a person who evokes a feeling of something special, it's worth taking a closer look. What is this meeting meant to show me? Perhaps it's a mirror reflecting both our inner beauty and the dark corners of our soul that we still hesitate to acknowledge. It is in this process that the chance for growth, healing, and gaining greater wholeness lies, both in relationships with others and in relationships with ourselves. When it comes to meetings seemingly predestined, one often imagines something light, beautiful, almost magical. But the truth is, deep, transformative relationships are rarely simple. They challenge us, force us to face our fears and weaknesses, and confront us with those parts of ourselves that we would prefer to hide from prying eyes forever. In the depths of our psyche, as defined by Carl Jung, lies the shadow, a repository of everything we reject, suppress, or simply refuse to acknowledge in ourselves. This shadow isn't just a collection of negative traits, such as bursts of anger, pangs of jealousy, or haughty arrogance. In its hidden corners may also lie dormant, forgotten opportunities, unrealized talents, and suppressed aspirations, yearning to emerge. When a person bursts into our lives like a whirlwind, seemingly sent by fate itself, there's a high probability that they are awakening our shadow. And this awakening can manifest as both dizzying enchantment and fierce conflict. Fateful relationships are rarely intended to simply fill our voids. Their true purpose is to illuminate ourselves, to make visible those aspects that were previously hidden in the darkness of the unconscious. They act like a mirror, reflecting what we have carefully hidden from ourselves. That is why emotional reactions in such unions often reach incredible intensity. Our deepest fears and insecurities come to the surface in these relationships. Fear of loss, the desire for total control, an insatiable thirst for recognition. The other person becomes a kind of stage on which a dramatic internal conflict plays out between who we think we are and what we have yet to discover. This dynamic can be painful and uncomfortable, but at the same time, it carries enormous potential for personal growth. The presence of the shadow in love relationships can cause suffering, but it is precisely what opens the path to deep transformations. Jung once wisely observed, "No one achieves enlightenment by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious." And relationships provide us with the most powerful platform for this awareness. When the universe sends us a person capable of touching the strings of our soul so deeply, this meeting becomes a catalyst for change. The other person brings to light hidden aspects of our personality, exposing both our best qualities and what we have suppressed for so long. There is an urgent need to look inside ourselves, recognize our pain points, understand recurring patterns, and finally, accept our shadow. In this difficult process, we become more whole and therefore more capable of real, unconditional love. It's important to understand that we are not talking about destructive or soul-poisoning connections. Discovering one's own shadow in no way serves as justification for violence or endless torment. Rather, it is a recognition that even in the most harmonious relationships, an unpleasant feeling sometimes arises, signaling deep internal changes. Often, it is complex unions that push us towards deeper self-knowledge. Many couples who have weathered turbulent times recall moments when they were ready to give up, confronted with unexpectedly surfacing old grievances or irrational reactions. It is at such moments that recognizing one's own shadow can fundamentally change the situation. Instead of looking for someone to blame in one's partner or running away from the problem, it is worth asking oneself, what does this situation say about me? Such a shift in perspective can turn conflict into a healing experience. As Jung emphasized, the integration of the shadow plays a key role in the process of individuation, that is, becoming our true essence. And there is nothing that could accelerate this process as much as relationships that encourage us to grow personally. Therefore, fateful encounters are not always easy, but often turn out to be the most honest. Recognizing one's shadow does not mean living in a never-ending internal struggle. It means increasing awareness and gaining greater freedom. The better we understand our hidden sides, the less we expect from our partner to fill our inner void or confirm our importance. This is how mature relationships are born, in which love becomes a conscious choice, not a disguised need. When fate sends us a person who awakens both our light and dark sides, it is a signal of profound internal changes to come. It is an invitation to abandon the illusion of ideal love and immerse oneself in true love, love that accepts, reveals, and transforms. Carl Jung saw in relationships not just a simple interaction between two personalities, but a powerful stimulus for spiritual growth. The most significant encounters, in his opinion, open the way to individuation, the process of becoming a whole person, free from outdated patterns and based on conscious acceptance of all aspects of one's inner essence. It is these fateful relationships, as if specially destined for us by the universe, that play a key role in our transformation. Being in close emotional contact with another person, we are like looking in a mirror. The partner reflects our strengths and weaknesses, pointing out areas for growth. Instead of looking for someone else to fill the inner void, we are called to turn to ourselves and take responsibility for our path. This is a complex but liberating practice. Individuation implies the recognition, acceptance, and integration of opposites within us: reason and feelings, strength and vulnerability, activity and passivity, masculine and feminine principles. It is in relationships that these poles manifest most clearly. When we are next to a person who simultaneously accepts us and challenges us, reflects, and at the same time provokes, we get a chance to integrate those parts of ourselves that might go unnoticed in solitude. Jung also emphasized the importance of integrating the animus and anima, the masculine and feminine aspects inherent in every person. A man carries within him an inner image of a woman, the anima, and a woman, an image of a man, the animus. These internal images are formed under the influence of personal experience, cultural stereotypes, and unconscious factors. In relationships, we often project these images onto our partner, which can lead to infatuation, disappointment, or confusion. However, realizing that these qualities also exist in ourselves, we take an important step on the path to individuation. Relationships are not just a palette of emotions and sensual experiences, but a complex system of symbolic processes and rituals that transform us from within. The feelings that another person awakens in us, whether it is love, fear, the desire to run away, or conversely, the need to stay close, are a reflection of our own internal experiences coming to the surface. The deeper our self-awareness, the more relationships turn into a fascinating journey of self-discovery. Many encounters that seem fateful to us lead to profound changes in our lives. They serve not only as a source of communication and joy, but also force us to confront important questions hidden in the depths of our soul. These connections tear us out of the routine of everyday life, destroy our defensive barriers, and offer us to face old wounds while simultaneously revealing forgotten strengths. On the path of individual development, it is important not to avoid conflicts, but to be able to extract valuable lessons from them. Every dispute can reveal in us those aspects that have not yet found their place in our personality. Every manifestation of love can demonstrate our ability to care, accept, and take mature responsibility. And over time, what began as a simple attraction or infatuation turns into a conscious presence. Integration occurs when we stop expecting another person to fill our inner void and begin to see in them a companion on our life path, walking alongside us, but having their own path, their own goals, and their own pace. At this moment, love ceases to be a fusion and becomes a shared community, a union of two independent individuals who meet each other without losing their individuality. When fate so closely binds us to another person, it gives us something more than just a relationship. It gives us a mirror to the soul. And before this mirror, we have a choice: to deny what we see or to accept the invitation to transform. Genuine intimacy is born from an inner drive for development when previously disparate aspects of personality merge, turning the union of two people into a powerful stimulus for self-discovery. It is not just about finding that one true ideal love, but about the ability to see deep symbolism in every person who enters our lives. True relationships become a bridge connecting our present self with the potential dormant within us. This is no longer just a game of chance, but a deep soul purpose. The universe tirelessly engages in dialogue with us, speaking through the voices of other people, reflecting in ourselves, and revealing truths accessible only to a sensitive heart and a receptive soul. Every encounter is not accidental, whether it is a gentle breeze or a raging storm. An encounter that leaves an indelible mark always carries a meaning hidden behind the veil of everyday life. When the universe decides to bring two destinies together, it uses the language of symbols, synchronicities, and trials, awakening in each of us what yearns to be acknowledged, healed, and accepted. Jungian psychology opens our eyes to the fact that true love is not only a community of interests, but also a mirror reflecting our essence. It shows us who we really are, where our shadows lie, and how limitless our potential for growth is. Any relationship is an invitation to individuation, an opportunity to know yourself through the prism of another person. Therefore, do not neglect the voice of intuition. Perhaps it is time to take a closer look at your connections, to see in them not only emotional attachment, but also a deep meaning. Your personal transformation begins with the first step, and perhaps now is the moment to take it.